In 2003, a book hit the shelves that was less of a memoir and more of a cultural hurricane. James Frey's A Million Little Pieces. It was a brutal, visceral, and supposedly real account of a young man clawing his way back from the depths of drug addiction and alcoholism. It was hailed as a masterpiece of raw human resilience. And then came the ultimate turbocharge. Oprah Winfrey picked it for her book club in September 2005. Overnight, it went from a bestseller to a secular scripture. Millions of readers wept over Frey's agonizing journey, most notably a segment where he claims to have undergone a multi-hour root canal procedure with absolutely zero anesthesia. Because, he was an addict and couldn't take the drugs. It was the ultimate test of human endurance. Except for one minor detail. He made it up, a massive chunk of it. Today, we are analyzing the anatomy of a literary scandal. How James Frey conned the world the day Oprah turned into a grand inquisitor, and the bizarre contract of trust between an author and a reader. To understand the fallout, we have to look at the text itself. In academia, we talk about the autobiographical pact, a concept coined by theorist Philippe Lejeune. It's the unwritten, legally non-binding agreement that when an author puts a memoir on the cover, they are promising that the I in the book is the I in real life. Frey didn't just bend this pact, he took a sledgehammer to it. He claimed he was wanted by the police in multiple states. He claimed he spent 3 months in jail after hitting a police officer with his car. He painted himself as a romantic, dangerous, Hemingway-esque outlaw. Enter the smoking gun. In January 2006, the investigative website did what Frey's publishers at Random House apparently forgot to do: fact check. They looked for the epic trail of destruction Frey left in his wake. And what did they find? Instead of a 3-month hardened jail sentence, police records showed Frey had been detained for exactly 3 hours. For a minor driving offense. He hadn't hit a cop, he'd basically given some attitude and had some open beer cans. The grand outlaw was, in reality, a guy who got a very standard, very boring parking lot citation. And that dental surgery without anesthesia? Dentists across the country collectively snorted in disbelief. It was medically absurd. Frey hadn't lived a million little pieces. He had lived maybe 1 or 2 slightly fractured pieces and fabricated the rest to make himself look like a tragic superhero. Now, this is where the narrative shifts from a standard literary fraud into a high-stakes cultural melodrama. When the scandal broke, Oprah initially defended Frey on The Larry King Show, uttering the famous and later deeply regretted phrase that the truth of the book was less important than its ability to inspire. The literary community gasped. Excuse me? Facts matter. Realizing she had accidentally endorsed a counterfeit, Oprah did what any titan of media would do. She staged a public trial. On the 26th of January 2006, James Frey was invited back onto the Oprah Winfrey Show. It wasn't an interview. It was an institutional exorcism. Oprah sat there looking like a disappointed deity and essentially asked him, "Why did you lie?" Frey sat there, visibly sweating, squirming in his chair, and admitted that he had altered his past to make himself seem more imposing. He admitted to lying about the jail time. He admitted to embellishing the dental work. Oprah famously told him that she felt duped and that he had betrayed millions of readers. From a sociological perspective, this broadcast was fascinating. It wasn't just about a book, it was a public ritual of confession and shaming. Frey was the scapegoat, sacrificing his reputation on the altar of daytime TV to cleanse the publishing industry of its sins. The fallout was swift and legally chaotic. Random House, facing immense backlash, took the unprecedented step of offering refunds to anyone who bought the book directly from them, provided they cut out the front inside flap as proof of purchase. Future editions were forced to carry a stark author's note confessing to the fabrications. But as students of literature, we have to ask a deeper question. Why does this apology taste so potent? Why do we care so much when a memoirist lies compared to when a politician or a corporation does? It's because the memoir is a unique genre. When you read a novel, you know it's a lie designed to tell a deeper truth. But when you read a memoir, you are investing your own empathy under the condition that this actually happened to a fellow human being. Frey commodified human suffering, specifically the harrowing journey of recovery, and amplified it for dramatic effect. He weaponized our empathy for profit. Ultimately, the James Frey scandal changed publishing forever. It birthed a hyper-vigilant era of legal vetting where publishers began looking at memoirs with the skepticism of a detective interviewing a suspect. Frey went on to write fiction later, which is arguably where he belonged all along. But A Million Little Pieces remains a monument to human vanity and the weird, fragile nature of non-fiction. It reminds us that while authors have the power to create worlds, they also have a terrifying capacity to lie right to our faces, and that the truth is often much less cinematic than a root canal without Novocaine. Thanks for watching. If you think this lecture was factually interesting, hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Can you ever truly forgive an author who lies? See you next time. Ciao.